A very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition, a special Super Bowl, or can we say Super Bowl?
Yes, we can. Until there's money involved.
Yeah. Are we making any money on this particular episode? I don't know. I mean, tied in with some other things. Maybe there's a few pennies that are involved in this, but nonetheless, yeah, big game special here that we have working. And it comes with a plate of chicken wings and a pitcher of beer. That's what we're going to do for you people. No, it's time to pick the side in the Super Bowl here. And then tomorrow we'll have some other theories about how you can get your money back after we bury you with this pick. I was thinking, and good morning, as we said, Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. It's the morning briefing here on nofilter.net, and of course, Caffeine TV, the many other platforms that we've been exploring here with this particular program. And we want to explore and probe what are we missing when we're looking at this particular Super Bowl? It's fairly much of a toss-up, you would have to say. I mean, where are you better off? Are you better off investing your money at minus 110, betting heads or tails, or picking a side in this ball game? I don't know. I think both of us are on the same side of this thing. I was thinking, what was the worst bet I ever made in my life? And a lot of them have been on Super Bowls. The worst bet I ever made in my life, and I can remember it vividly. I remember where I was. I remember how I was feeling. And, I was a lot younger then, of course. I felt pretty good about things and thought the prospects for life were great. Circa 1973, my buddy Cliff Keller and I had started going to the flats, as they call them. We decided to take in the Belmont Stakes. So we had been weaned on harness racing and Carmine Abatello stiffing horses while Del Insco slipped by on a rail at Roosevelt and Yonkers, much to our dismay, as we were watching our minor bankroll just dissipate into nothing. And we were thinking, man, this is fun. Let's do more of it. How do you turn how do you make a small fortune? You start out with a large fortune at the track. It's the old joke. But anyway, so we decided one day, I guess this was circa 1969. Wow. We decided to go to the Belmont Stakes. My buddy said, hey, we ought to try this. This is a spectacular event. Let's go to the Belmont Stakes. I always had an interest in horse racing, going all the way back to when they used to distribute the New York Herald Tribune. There's a defunct newspaper. It was defunct when newspapers were popular. And the girl that sat next to me, a lovely young lady named Drina Turner. I still remember this. While everybody else was talking about the current events that were in the paper, we were analyzing the entries that day from Aqueduct at Belmont Park, which, was an unfortunate thing. I mean, it may be evidence that you've lived before, or you have certain interests that nobody else has, and you can't explain where they came from. There was no influence towards sports or especially degenerate gambling in my family. My mother didn't gamble. She didn't believe in it. She would give me that look, Louis, that you get at the doctor's office. Kind of like Joe Pesci gave that dealer when he was loaning him money to pay his electric bill in the movie Casino, where he said, don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me. You're gambling. You're gambling. And that's the kind of look my mother would give me. I think that's scene was inspired by the various looks that people have gotten from their parents. My father was not interested in sports. He was a Renaissance man. So I don't know where this drive to and compelling interest in horse racing came from, but I had it ever since the third grade. So we decided to go to the flats. We go to the Belmont Stakes, 1969. I believe might have been Arts and Letters might have won that race. And then we continue to do that on an annual basis. And of course, I sprinkled in various trips down there on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and an assortment of Sundays, because I really got some. I don't want to call it an addiction, Louie. When you call it an addiction, it has negative connotations. But I don't know what else. How else would you determine what this particular behavior was, except a sick fucking addiction to losing my money? So I go to the Belmont Stakes 1973, and what was going on that year? Here's Big Red. I tell you what, like a tremendous machine this horse is running out there. And I decided in a 5-horse field, after Secretariat had destroyed the field in the Kentucky Derby and set a track record, which I think still exists, destroyed the field in the Preakness Stakes, and I was going for the Triple Crown, and there were only 4 challengers in that race, one of which was Sham, who had no chance. I mean, Sham was appropriately named. I mean, maybe in another year, Sham might have turned out to be an historically great horse, but unfortunately, there was that big kahuna in the way, and that was Secretariat, Big Red. So I decided to be a wise guy, and even though Secretariat was a prohibitive favorite, as you might imagine, in fact, people didn't even cash tickets. They had winning tickets, and they framed them because you were going to get $2.10 on a winning bet. And people wanted to say, well, you see that? I had a ticket on Secretariat. I'm saying, go cash that motherfucker. You're never going to get your $2.10 back again. 10 cents was, a consideration back then. You used to actually remember where you used to keep your change.
Yes. Oh, I
Actually,
remember.
yeah. I mean, now it's like, yeah, keep it. It used to, and the common phrase was, "Do you have any spare change?" Yeah, of course. I had some money in my pocket. I was just going to throw out the window, but there you go. You can have it. So, yeah, I didn't want to take the 210 on Secretariat. And I had a theory that maybe one of the other horses could win. So I think I plunged my $20 on Sham at a tremendous price, which I got about 3/4 of a mile worth of thrills. The Secretariat went the first 6 panels in 109 and change, which would have been good enough to win any of the sprint races on the card, and then continued at a mile and a half in the Belmont Stakes, the distance of the Belmont, continued to draw away, winning eventually by 31 lengths. And I'm sitting there looking at my tickets going, "You stupid motherfucker. Who is going to beat this horse?" And that may be the dumbest bet I ever made in my life. But second only to that would be any Super Bowl that I've picked.
Yeah.
So I'm very leery about the fact that I like the Kansas City Chiefs, Lubie. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm feeling the Chiefs. A lot of different reasons. You look at some of the statistics, the data that's there. Patrick Mahomes, of course, a tough guy to bet against. As an underdog, Patrick Mahomes, who is seldom an underdog with the Kansas City Chiefs, he's been an underdog in 13 games in his career. Only 13 times in, what is he in, his fifth year now? 13 times he's been an underdog. So is it his sixth? Yeah, I mean, he's been to what? He's already won a couple of Super Bowls. He's going for his third ring.
6 straight AFC championships. So that's 6 seasons.
Is it 6 or 5? I'm not sure. Well, we probably should look this up for factual purposes here, because we don't want to pretend that we're sportscasters, Lubie, that have some kind of a notion about what's going on. But anyway, regardless whether it's 5 or 6, I mean, he's been in virtually every Super Bowl every year. And as an underdog, Patrick Mahomes' record against the spread in games where the Kansas City Chiefs are underdogs, they're getting points in this one, 2 points from the San Francisco 49ers. As an underdog, his record is 12-1. 12-1. Only one time he's lost to the spread. One time, Sam Retigliano. One time he's lost to the spread. How many years is it?
7 years. Remember, the first year he sat behind Smith.
Oh, that's right.
2018 was his first year. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. 6 seasons.
Nice job there. Is that to do math?
I went 3rd grade. I counted it out for you.
Well, what do you got on that one? Not exactly calculus the way we're figuring this out.
Just that stat alone, in 6 full seasons, he's only been an underdog 13 times. Like, that's
13 times. Imagine that. And 12-1 in those games, 10-3 straight up. So getting 2 points. It's been fluctuating the line a little bit back and forth. And you're asking yourself, what is wrong with this picture? Why is it that Vegas is trying to encourage you to dump all of your money on the Kansas City Chiefs? That's the number one scary factor. Although I'm still going to go ahead and, as I said, rival maybe the dumbest bet, betting against Secretariat. Imagine that. You're looking at a guy that bet against Secretariat in the Belmont Stakes. I remember my friend who I went with screaming, there's something out there by like a mile. Couldn't really see it. We were down by the rail. In fact, when I see the clip, I watched it again yesterday to figure out exactly what went wrong in that race. And it was that I went and thought that I could beat Secretariat. So can you beat the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, 12-1 against the spread in games where he's getting points, 10-3 straight up in games where he's getting points? So the money line looks to be maybe the play there. I mean, if Kansas City wins, are they going to win by 1 or 2? No, you may as well take the price there and take a shot on the money line. And does San Francisco belong in this Super Bowl is the bigger question, Lubie. I don't know what you think about that. They by all rights, should have lost to the Packers. The Packers kind of blew that game. And then were it not for Dan Campbell, I mean, they're out of this Super Bowl also. Hey, Dan, why don't you go for it on 4th and 3? You stupid asshole. We love Dan Campbell. We want to put our arms around Dan Campbell. We want to embrace the old school mentality of, yeah, we're going to bite your kneecap off. Should have known right then and there he was going to make some really dumb move that would cost the Detroit Lions any chance they ever had of sniffing a Super Bowl competition. How about that? Not only once does he do it, but a couple of times. You would have been in a position midway through the 3rd quarter, the Detroit Lions, to force Brock Purdy, who wasn't having a particularly good game, and the San Francisco offense, which was laying dormant throughout the first half. They had, all of 7 points through the first half. Yep. And then they would have had a total of 22 or 23 minutes after blowing the first 37 minutes with nothing in terms of production, to go ahead and execute 3 scoring drives, just to be back in the game, just to put you into overtime. 3 scoring drives, 2 touchdowns, and a field goal. That's math I can do. And yet Dan Campbell decides, me, Mr. Macho, me, Conan. Like Conan the Barbarian was on the sidelines there. Right? Why didn't they just get Schwarzenegger to call the plays? Ridiculous. So, I mean, here's the thing. Here's what you have working. You have a guy that never loses to the point spread when he's an underdog. And then you have San Francisco, which is one of those teams. It happens once in a while where you're asking yourselves, how the hell did they get to the Super Bowl in the first place? Should have been knocked out. Now, towards the end of the season, they were looking really good, except they were decimated by Baltimore, who Kansas City subsequently beat.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm making a case here for Kansas City. I'm trying to convince myself that I want to go ahead and take these 2 stinking points, maybe even bet the game on the money line. And yet I'm doing it with the greatest amount of trepidation and fear that I've ever had about anything. I was more confident that Secretariat would lose that day in the 73 Belmont than I am about the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. I mean, have we made a case here? Have we talked ourselves out of it? I still don't know. Is it going to be heads or tails, Lubie? But I'm going to commit myself and make my selection the Kansas City Chiefs, and that they're going to go ahead and start carving their path into history with the Mahomes. They will probably waive the Hall of Fame waiting period with Mahomes and just put him in the Hall of Fame right after this ball game. What do you think? I mean, am I way off on this?
No,
Chiefs.
You're aware
Getting 2.
That's what's funny, that the Niners are the favorite because the whole world's picking the Chiefs. And look,
Yes.
Chiefs went on the road. The Chiefs welcomed the Dolphins team. However beleaguered they were at the time, they were still one of the better offenses. If the defense wasn't totally banged up, a good defense, and they handled the Dolphins. And they went on the road to Buffalo with the weather being a major factor and handled the Bills. Then they went on the road to Baltimore and played arguably the best team in football and dominated them for a half, struggled in the second half, but held on and won decisively, even if you don't look at the scoreboard. And then you have Mahomes and you have Reed. So that's where everyone's going. The Niners are the opposite. The Niners should have lost to the Packers. The Packers outplayed them for 58 minutes until that last drive where Purdy went down and scored a touchdown. The Packers outplayed the Niners. The Lions outplayed them even into the end of the game. A lot of things went wrong for the Niners to win that game. So you look at it, you're like, okay, the Chiefs, of course. My thing is, the Niners have more talent on the roster. It's just, can you go with Kyle Shanahan over Andy Reid? Andy Reid, for whatever he is, finds a way to win these games since he's left Philadelphia, and Kyle Shanahan finds a way to lose these games.
Yes, you have that factor is huge also. If you're going to go coaching matchup, I mean, you're putting a check in Andy Reid's box, even though Shanahan's had great success, but
yes,
he has shown a penchant to choke badly. He's on the all Heimlich maneuver team, is he not?
Yes.
He may have even invented the maneuver.
Honestly.
Yeah, to stave off choking. So, all right, so you're with me. Kansas City Chiefs, you're going to put your money there? Put your money where your mouth is on this thing, and go ahead, take the 2 points with Patrick Mahomes. All the trends in terms of gambling information and analytics would lead you to believe that you're pretty safe there with Patrick Mahomes. You have Brock Purdy versus Mahomes. You keep saying that Purdy's a system player. He may well be.
He's fine.
I don't know that any quarterback wins without a lot of talent around him. I'm not sure that any quarterback just manufactures a victory with a bunch of scrubs. You don't see that too often. So, Purdy, I give him more credit than a lot of people do. People are starting to wake up to the idea that, wait a minute. I mean, if you look at the second half of that Detroit game, right after Jim Nantz and Tony Romo declared that, I don't know, were they doing the game or was it Olsen? I think it might have been Olsen, and that was the NFC game. Yeah, it was on Fox. And they had just finished saying that, I guess it was Greg Olsen, who is highly touted as a analyst for football. He's going to be replaced by Tom Brady next year. Yeah, people like him. I think he's insane. As he starts out by saying, well, you know what? The one thing that's never going to happen is Brock Purdy going to beat you with his legs. Like he was in some kind of MMA matchup, and he was going to throw a bunch of kicks to the head. And sure enough, in the second half, as he's running all over the field there, like he was a second coming to Fran Tarkenton, they go, well, you know what? This guy can really be a factor in this game once he starts using his legs and running downhill. Like it was the myth of the Sisyphus or something. Oh, my God. What is this guy talking about? But, Purdy has acquitted himself, I think, well enough where regardless of whether you want to minimize or marginalize his success by saying he's a system quarterback with a bunch of stars, he's a good quarterback. I think you would have to say that, and he holds up under pressure, which he's executed and orchestrated two good game-winning drives,
Yes.
or two key drives in the postseason. But outside of that, I mean, just falls well short. I mean, he's not going to be mentioned in the same breath as Mahomes at any time in terms of career assessment. And here he is. He's got to battle this guy who's just as tough as nails when it comes to these kind of situations. So we've convinced ourselves, I think, to go ahead and bet the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to do that. And then the other prop bet that's very popular right now is Pacheco of the Chiefs over, I believe it's 67.5 yards. People are of the frame of mind that he's going to run all over. And you would think that Andy Reid, as you said, with big game experience and having a certain calmness about him in these spots, unlike Dan Campbell, he will probably try to ram the ball a little bit down the 49ers' throats with Pacheco, as everybody's expecting Mahomes to light it up with the passing game. And would you take a shot with Valdez-Scantling? He of the hands of stone. I mean, They may as well introduce him as Roberto Duran, this guy, having dropped a ton of passes during the regular season, which is something else to look at, Lubie, in this game, because it seems like Kansas City's wideouts and receivers, whether it's out of the backfield or tight ends, they have sort of shored up that whole thing about dropping passes, which they led the league in during the regular season. But all of a sudden, Kelsey's catching a ball. Valdez-Scantling is catching a ball. He only has to get 22.5 yards, Valdez-Scantling, to eclipse the over. That's one play. Yeah, he's a deep ball threat. If he catches one pass in this ball game, he probably goes over the total in terms of yards. So there it is. There's our 3-element parlay. Chiefs, Valdez-Scantling, and Pacheco to go over their prescribed yardage totals. And you go out there and make a big score. Unless, of course, you try to parlay everything to Reba McEntire, which we can't figure out what she's going to do with the national anthem. And then I'm feeling tails on the coin flip. So there's our Super Bowl analysis. I hope you guys make a lot of money with this thing. How disjointed was that conversation,
I'm still up in the air with this game. I'm leaning Niners, but I just can't go with Shanahan. The Shanahan factor, not even the Purdy, because Purdy played well in the second half for the Mahomes.
Yeah,
it's Shanahan. I just don't. You said it, and the professor agreed with you when I was talking to him. That's why he hates Shanahan. The 28-3 was one thing, but doubling down with Jimmy G when you had a 10-point lead with 6.5 minutes left, and you threw it instead of just running it. Your defense was playing well, and you allowed the Chiefs to get an interception and turn the game on its head. It's just some guys are who they are, and you think they're going to learn, and they don't. And Andy Reid has shown he can win these games, and Shanahan shows he will lose these games. So that's why I lean Chiefs.
Yeah, while Dan Campbell is probably eating a giant turkey leg on the sideline there with the juice dripping down his chin, he'll be going for it on 4th and 9 in the future when he's in the spots, if he ever gets there again with the Detroit Lions. All right, Chiefs, Pacheco, Valdez-Scantling, Pacheco and Valdez-Scantling over. And we still, I mean, maybe we can make a decision by tomorrow on the national anthem, which would probably be the way to go, as we said yesterday, and that is get out of the bet before the game even starts. Then you don't even have to watch it, right? You can go to any restaurant. It's going to be empty. You can do anything you want. You want to go to the park and shoot baskets? Nobody's going to be out there because everybody's going to be riveted and watching the Super Bowl. And, so far, I mean, the San Francisco 49ers have maintained their favoritism because I believe if you look at the big picture, Vegas is daring you to go ahead and bet the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes.
So I like that position. All right, that's going to do it for a very confusing edition of the morning briefing here. I don't know that we helped anybody. I don't know that we even helped ourselves on this thing. I'm trying to convince myself to bet the Chiefs. All right, for Mike Lubie Lubitz, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll join you tomorrow. We'll have some more and maybe a more in-depth analysis on how you can make money on the Super Bowl. That's happening tomorrow in the next edition of the morning briefing. Hope you'll tune in. And until then, for Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's edition of the morning briefing.